Number 2.
Firstly, I want to say that I'm a believer of the paranormal. Almost all of my immediate family members have had experiences with the paranormal. This happened to me when I was 16 years old. My family was on vacation in Florida, and I couldn't go because I had to work. I stayed with my aunt for the month of August and we had a great time. However, I ended up coming down with a nasty fever, so I was bedridden for a week. While I was in bed, something seriously freaky and strange happened to me. Now, before I go on, there's a few things about my aunt's apartment I have to share. My aunt lives with my grandmother, but she was also away with my family. My grandmother has lived there since she was in her 40s. She's 62 now. She's always believed that the apartment was a little haunted. She's had experiences on many different occasions, from things moving on their own to hearing whispers at night. My aunt also believes it's haunted, but she has more of a strong belief. Once, when my mother was staying with them, she had this freaky experience. My aunt was returning late from a night of partying. My mum was awake when my aunt entered the room. When she closed the door, my mum asked, "Who is that behind you?" My aunt replied, "No one. I came home alone." My mum thought that she saw a dark figure follow my aunt into the room. So, when I came down with my fever, I was forced to stay in bed. I had to call in sick to work, and basically, I just watched television all day. The first few nights, I didn't notice anything weird. I was a little bit afraid to sleep alone since my aunt's room was pretty creepy, but her dog Lola, she stayed with me. Even though she provided a little comfort, I was still afraid. And one night, something very strange happened to me. For some reason, that specific night, I couldn't sleep. I was burning up and shivering at the time. My head, it was pounding, and I just couldn't sleep. As I lay in the darkness, I noticed Lola shoot up and walk over to the edge of the bed. She stood there, staring at the closet. I got a little freaked out since animals have better senses than humans. "Lola, get back here," I said to her. She stayed there, still staring at the closet. I tried to shrug off the feeling of fear, but it was still there. Closing my eyes, I began to drift off, when I felt something touch my face. It was cold and sharp, almost like a nail. I swatted at my face, thinking it was just one of those random itches you get. I started to fall back to sleep, when, a few minutes later, I felt it again. Only this time, it began to drag across my cheek. I thought that it was Lola, so I told her to stop. That's when I realized that she was still at the foot of my bed. That cold feeling was still there on my cheek. I stayed still for a few moments before retreating under my covers, like some child. I know it sounds a bit funny now, retelling the story, but I was truly scared. I was home alone and I felt something sharp and icy run across my cheek. It was almost like someone was running their nail on my face. I didn't catch any sleep that night. The next morning, I told my aunt about it. When I told her the part about the sharp icy feeling on my cheek, her mouth fell open. She told me a story about how she felt the same thing on one occasion. Only in her story, she woke up with a mark on her face. I don't know what happened. I thought maybe it was just my fever, but I know I felt something. And the fact that my aunt has had a similar experience only fuels my belief that her apartment, and especially her room, is haunted. To this day, I still don't go into her room alone.
Number 1.
I live in Alberta and have been working part-time at a synagogue in Calgary for just over 10 years. This happened during my first year working there, but it's always stuck in my mind. The synagogue had recently purchased the building from a church, who purchased it from another church years before. The building was built in the 1950s as a church and is a fairly big building as far as churches go. My shift started at 6 p.m. and I was usually there until 11:30. The night was going as normal, and as usual, I was the last one in the building. I had finished tidying up the kitchen and I was making my last rounds when I heard something downstairs. The basement was a finished area that was used all the time for religious schools and the In From the Cold program that helps people when they don't have a place to go for the night. I walked down the stairs to the landing. At the other end of the landing, there was a doorway to a hallway that was always dark. As I looked around the landing, I saw a child standing in the doorway playing and singing. I couldn't make out what song, but I spoke up. Hi there. I'm closing up the building for the night." The child then looked in my direction and then ran down the hall. I had been up and down that hallway so many times in my time there that there were no red flags going off. I started to walk down the hallway, calling out, but there was no answer. All I could hear were the giggles from the child. About halfway down the hallway, it curves off to the left, so I figured that the child had run around the corner, and that's why I couldn't see them. But when I got around the corner, I saw a tall figure, and I called out again. "Excuse me, I'm closing up the building." The tall figure turned around, and something felt very wrong, and my heart sank. All I could see were the figure's green eyes, and I felt myself get very cold. I broke eye contact and ran the other way, down the hall, through the landing and up the stairs. I left the building through the doors at the top stairs, which were self-locking, and I went straight to my car, not looking back. After I got in my car, I thought I saw, out of the corner of my eye, the figure standing at the door on the inside. I didn't dare look back at the building, and I drove away. I still work there, but I avoid that hallway as much as possible. But if I have to go down it, the lights are on and it's always earlier in the night. I also make sure that I'm out of the building before 11 p.m. I haven't seen the figure since, and I hope I never do again. G'day mates, it's Busta here. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video guys. Thanks again to the Hive members that bravely shared their stories for us all here, and I hope you're all doing well. For the chance to have your story feature in a video, you can send your story to my email, which is in the description below. And as always, keep them coming guys, as this channel relies upon your stories to continue. Also, please do me a favor and just state in your email what your story is about in the description, and also provide me with a short written statement of consent, just so that I can be above board with everything. Please also remember to tell me in the email if you would like to remain anonymous, and please change any names if you don't want particular names to be shared. As always guys, it would be awesome if you could like, share, comment and subscribe if you're new. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for updates throughout the week. You can also catch me on my second channel, all of which have links in the description below. Thanks again for always tuning in and for all the love and support guys, and I'll see you mates